everyone, it's Bethany, and in this video today I'm going to be doing a reverse canvas. And I decided to do a reverse canvas because I've had a few people ask me if I would do a tutorial on one, and I thought it would be fun for the design that I have in mind today. So I am going to be taking a traditional canvas just like this. I believe it's a 10 by 10, and I purchased it as a 2-pack from Target, and I'll be sure to link it below. So it's a great little size, square in nature, and I think it's going to be perfect for the project that I have in mind. So what other materials we'll need are a heat press mat, because we are going to be doing an iron-on image onto our canvas. So I have some black HTV or iron-on, so I have my Easypress mat, and then we're going to be using the 9x9 Easypress 2 to press on the iron-on to the canvas once it's time. And then I also have a weeding tool for weeding out my design. I have a measuring tape to measure after we get our canvas deconstructed, and then I also have a little screwdriver, and then I have a true control knife, and those two things are going to help me when I am actually taking the canvas apart. I'm also going to be using my Cricut maker, but you can use any cutting machine for this project. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to take apart the canvas. To take apart the canvas, you just flip over the canvas to the back, and then what you do is, I'm going to use a true control knife, but you can use an X-Acto knife or any type of little knife that you wish. And then on the outside or inside really, but I think I'm going to try to go along the outer edge of the staples, I'm just going to run a little light score on the canvas, and this is going to help remove the canvas from the actual frame, because beneath here there is an actual functional frame, and it's going to be the star of our reverse canvas. So once I have one side done, I'll just switch it, and you're going to have to put a little bit more force into the corners because it's folded together, so that it's a thicker area because the canvas is folded one on top of one another. But it really does not take much pressure, and then you can just pull away and you can keep scoring as needed just to get the canvas pulled away from the frame. And then we'll also be focusing on this middle piece in just a second. But I'm going to go around the perimeter first and get all of that taken away. Okay, so now I have my canvas, and it is cut away from the frame. So now I can turn it around, and I have a little frame here. And some frames have staples in the corners and some do not, so it just kind of depends. But now I have a little piece of canvas that now I can turn over as I turn over my frame, and then you just flip it over and you have the canvas, but then you have the inside frame now on the outside, and that is what is called a reverse canvas. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to take this canvas and set it aside, and we're going to actually work on cleaning up the back. So what I like to do is I just like to pull and rip off these little pieces of canvas. So I'm just going to pull those little pieces away, and they're really easy to just tear. They come off fairly simply. So I'm just pulling off this last little piece, and now I have it cleaned up a little bit more, so I can just take these pieces and I can toss them because I don't personally have a use for them. Okay, so now the last thing I'm going to do is I am actually going to remove the staples from my canvas. Now this step is actually personal preference, because some people like to finish off the back of their canvas differently than others. So it kind of depends on how you like to finish off your canvas, and I will show you what method I like to do later. But for me, I do like to remove the staples. It's one of the things that I just like to do. It's a step I like to take, but again, if you don't want to take that step, it's not mandatory, but it helps me with the method I'm going to use later. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little screwdriver, and I'm just going to gently place my screwdriver under these staples, wiggle, and then I just kind of collect them in the middle of my frame here. So I'm just going to go through here and remove these little staples. Okay, so now I have my frame all cleaned up. There are no staples remaining. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my canvas back in, and then I am going to set my little frame right in the center. Now you want to be sure when you're cutting apart your canvas that you leave a lot of room along the sides. So you want to have it overflowing the canvas like this for now. And we will go ahead and fix that later, but for now it's okay because we want it to have some trim along the edge. So I'm just going to center this and now take my measuring tape and I'm going to measure just the inside of my frame, and that'll tell me how much room I have to work with. So that's just a little bit over 8 inches, and this is a little bit over 8 inches. So I'm going to go with 8 inches by 8 inches. And now we're going to go ahead and hop into Design Space and get our design all sized and ready to cut. Okay, so here we are in Cricut Design Space, and this is the file that I'm going to be using. I did purchase this off of Design Bundles, and I'm just making this for around our house for decor for this fall. And so now what I'm going to do is I am going to take this entire file, and everything right now is in separate layers, and I want to make sure everything cuts at the exact location where I see it right now. So I'm going to highlight everything, and I'm going to come down here and just attach everything together. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I have it right now at about 7.5 by 7.6. So I'm going to go ahead and unlock that, and I'm going to say 7.5 even by 7.5 even. So it just shortened that up just a little bit because my canvas is completely square, so I want to make sure that this is completely square as well. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to send this to my maker. You can use any cutting machine for this project, so we're just doing iron-on. You might have to get a little creative if you're using the Cricut Joy just because this is quite large. So instead of attaching everything together over here, maybe you just attach the top portion, the middle portion, and then the bottom portion, and you might have to do 3 cuts. With the Cricut Joy, it's just about getting creative with how you get everything cut out and then realign it on your actual project, but it's totally doable. Okay, so I'm going to use my maker just because I do have a larger machine, so I'm going to make it easier on myself, and I'm going to click Make It. Because this is an iron-on project, we do need to mirror our project, and then we'll click Continue. I'm going to select Everyday Iron-On for my cut setting, and then I'm going to go ahead and load my mat and make sure it's shiny side down. Also verify again that mirror is turned on, and then we'll get cutting. Okay, so I have my iron-on here, and when I have a larger roll, I like to roll it all the way up as tight as I can, and then I just let a little, like about an inch, expose itself. Again, we're going to do shiny side down, so I'm locating that shiny side down, and I'll make sure that's face down on the mat. But I like to do this because it's easier to line up just a little bit than an entire sheet, so it just allows me to line up just that top portion very easily. And I just press it down, and then I can unroll the rest. So I'm just going to get that all laid down really nicely. I really need to get either my mat replaced or I need to get this cleaned because it's starting to lose its stick. Okay, so now again it is shiny side down on the mat. We are good to go, and we can load it into our machine. Okay, while that is cutting, I'm going to preheat my Easypress. So I'm going to do 340, and then I'm going to do it for 30 seconds. And this is the setting for the cotton canvas and the iron-on with the Easypress 2. So it says 340 for 30 seconds with light pressure, and then we'll flip it and we'll press it again and then do a cold peel. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a try, and we'll get that preheated while this is finishing cutting. Okay, so I have my design all cut out, so I'm just going to go ahead and get it all weeded. So my question for you before I forget, I am having trouble finding, and it's not really my own mistake or my own problem because I am self-admittedly really picky, but I'm having trouble finding a stain that I really like. So I really like a lighter color stain, but I'm having trouble finding something that I just really like. My husband has been amazing and has run to the hardware store for me, and I've given him pictures of what I really like, and I just really want something light, but, you know, has a nice wood look to it. So if you guys know of a light stain, I don't want it too dark because I don't necessarily have a lot of darker wood pieces in my house. I definitely have like a more lighter color palette, so I just want like a nice light stain, if that makes sense. But let me know if you guys know of a good stain option that I can maybe try out, or I can look up to see if it's close to what I'm looking for, because that is one of the reasons why I decided to leave this unstained and unfinished, which, one, I really like the look of an unfinished piece, but second of all, behind the scenes, I'm really struggling with finding just the right stain for me. So these little corner vines are gorgeous, and they are a little bit dainty. So if you end up using this file, just go slow. They're very doable. They're very easy to weed, but just go slower around them because they are very fragile. So now I'm just going to go through and grab my little insides of my letters and make sure everything starts taking shape here. Okay, so I had to locate my design again in Design Space just so I knew which part to weed out going forward, because this middle part, it's interesting. You're going to actually do the inverse. So I just had to double check before I started weeding, and always double check. If you're unsure, just pull up the design again so that you can reference it to see which stays and which goes when it comes to weeding out your design. There is no problem double checking. It's much easier than ruining the intention of the design. I'm just going through and weeding out these letters. I love this little design. I think it is so cute, and I'm not one to really go big on Halloween decor. I like fall a little bit more than I like Halloween in terms of decor. So I liked how this is a little bit more, I don't know, well, I guess definitely it's more farmhouse, but it's kind of like a nice subtle Halloween decor, but without going too much, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense, but let me know. Do you guys decorate a lot for Halloween? It's one of those, we put out pumpkins and stuff, but it's one of those seasons that I don't get a ton of decor out for, but I decorate for fall in general instead, which is definitely happening around my house right now. It's been so fun. I feel like we've just needed something fun to bring like a little bit of change to the mundaneness of being safe at home, so it's been kind of fun to kind of get some decor out. Okay, I think I have everything, making sure I don't leave any scraps on my design. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over and just double check everything. It looks like everything has weeded really nice. Again, these are really dainty. Aren't they pretty? But just go really slow around there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is clean up my little scrap pieces, and then I'm going to get my heat mat out and get everything ready for pressing. Okay, so before I do anything, I am going to place a piece of parchment paper over my canvas, and I'm just going to preheat the canvas. So I'm just going to run my Easypress over for about 5 seconds and just get the material all preheated. Okay, so that should be perfect. Okay, now I'm just going to take away my parchment paper there, and I'm going to grab my frame, and I'm going to place it on here really quick, and then I'm going to grab my design, and I'm going to place it right in the middle here. So this is just going to kind of give me an idea of where I want to place my design, and that looks pretty good. So now I can remove the frame, but what I was mainly focusing on was that I had enough canvas material outside, and then it was centered, and the frame there really just helps get everything centered. So that looks good. So now this is still super, super hot from being preheated. So being very careful. I'm just going to let that cool for just a second, and then we will get to pressing. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my butcher paper right back on top, and then I am going to place my entire press right over my design. And my press is bigger than my design because I'm working with a 9x9 and my design is 7.5. Was it 7.5? I think 7.5 by 7.5 or something like that. So it should cover the whole thing. And it says light pressure, but I'm going to add a little bit of pressure to mine. And it's just going to count down from 30. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove my press and then remove the parchment paper. Then I'm going to carefully, again it's really hot, I'm going to flip this over, and then I will just press for an additional 15 seconds on the back. Okay, so now I'm going to remove that again, and we can let this cool. So this is going to be a cold peel. Again, be really careful because it is hot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it on my table just because the heat press mat holds in the heat, so it's a little bit harder to get it to cool quickly if you keep it on the mat. So I'm just going to place it on a cooler surface to help draw that heat out, and then once it's cool enough, we will go ahead and peel up the carrier sheet. Okay, so now that's completely cool. So I'm just going to start in the corner, and I'm going to peel at an angle, and I'm just going to monitor every place where I am peeling up to make sure that there isn't any lifting. And I'm not seeing anything, so it's looking good. This iron-on has like a matte finish to it, so it looks really, really polished and nice. I really, really like it. Okay, so everything is looking really, really good. And finishing up right there. Okay, so that worked perfectly the first time. That's exciting. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to just clean up a little bit, and then we will start putting our frame back together. Okay, so I've seen this next step done a variety of ways, so just know going forward, if you have another way of doing this, then definitely do it the best way that you like, but personally, I have seen it done so many different ways that I know that there are so many different ways that work for people, and at this point, it's just up to personal preference. So for me, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to attach mine with thumbtacks because I think it looks really, really clean. But I've also seen people re-staple it. I've also seen people hot glue it. There are many different ways you can do this. So just go with what feels best to you. But for me, I'm going to move forward with doing thumbtacks. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure everything is lined up perfectly and the frame is located exactly where I want it. Okay, and that looks good to me. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my frame. I'm going to make sure everything stays put, and just shifted just a little bit there. So I'm going to realign everything. Okay. Okay, and I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to flip it completely over. Okay, now I'm going to grab my little thumbtacks and start putting this all back together. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the right side. It doesn't really matter which side, but I'm going to start right over here. And then what I'll do next is I'll go to the complete opposite side to do my next pin. So once I have one pin down, I'm going to pull this really, really tight, and then I'm going to place my second pin. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I am going to flip it back over and make sure I still like where everything is, which I do. Looks good. Then I'm going to flip it back over, and I'm going to start at the top. So I'm going to pull it really, really tight at the top. Grab a thumbtack or a push pin and place it right in there. And it pushes in really, really nice. Actually, I think I got that over a little. a little too far, so I'm just gonna pull that back up a little bit. I think it was a little close to my frame. The other ones are in a little bit, which is gonna help me in the next part. So I wanna make sure that that's a little bit more in the center. Okay, so perfect. And then I'm going to go opposite again and pull tight. Okay, and then I'm just kind of feeling where the center is and getting my tack right in the center. Okay, so now I'm just going to turn over and make sure I like how everything looks. Again, we still have a couple more tacks to go, but looks like it's really good and it looks like it's really tight, so that's good. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to go into a corner and I'm going to pull tightly, grab a tack, and push it right in. Again, now going to the complete opposite, pulling tightly, grabbing a tack, and pushing it right in. I like the option of using tacks because they're not permanent. Again, you could use staples as well, and you could just peel up the staples, but this would be really easy to remove if in the future you wanted to do something differently with the frame. But again, pulling tight in this corner. I just liked the idea of doing this, plus I think it just looks really, really clean on the back. Okay, so then I'm going to go again to the complete opposite, pull really, really tight, and then place a tack. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over and just see how I'm liking it. It looks really, really good. I think what I'm going to do is I might place some in the middles here just to make sure it all looks really good and there's no, you know, gaps or anything on the other side where you can see any lifting. So I'm just going to go really quick, one, and then again go to the opposite side. And I do that just to make sure that it stays even at all times. Okay, so this might seem like a lot, but I think it's going to make it look really, really polished and tight on the front. And honestly, tacks are so affordable, so you can get them for really inexpensive. And then you can get them also in just about any color. So what would be really neat too is like if you were making a Christmas one, you could have like red on the back just to add like a little fun festive look on the back. Or you could get like gold or silver if you wanted something else on the back. But I liked just the way the white looked because it just kind of looks nice and polished. Okay, so now I am all done there. So now I'm just going to grab my True Control knife and I am going to trim away the extras. So I'm just going to start on the side and just kind of get a feel for where my end is. And I'll visually just kind of go straight down as well. And I'm just going to trim off my extras. Just like this. And then I will just turn it and I'll do the next side. Okay, and then I'm just doing the final side here. Just like this. And trim one more piece. And then I did all of the sides so clean, and then my last side I got a little quick. So I'm just going to get that cleaned up a little bit more just so it looks nice and straight. Okay, so there we go. So this is how the back looks. I honestly think that looks so polished and professional. But again, there are so many ways you can do this, so be sure to always just go with the way that you like the best. But now we turn it over. It looks really, really nice and tight. It's so cute. I love how this turned out. I really actually love that bear frame too. It really looks nice. But let me know if you guys know of any really nice stains or what your go-to stain is. Again, I don't want anything too dark, but I'm just having trouble finding the right fit. So anyway, if you have anything in mind, let me know, and be sure to pop down into the comments. Let me know what you think of this. Be sure to also give this a thumbs up if you found this helpful or if you think that this turned out really sweet, and I will be sure to see you all in the next video.